for about 11 years. I used to come to the kitchen and make breakfast for my brother and I, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make my version of a simple chicken curry dish that my family has enjoyed for years. I'm going to start the pan, and you want to make sure you have it at about medium heat, and I'm going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, because by doing so it makes this rice turn into a little bit like a sticky rice, even though I'm using basmati rice, which comes straight from India, and it is a long grain rice, and it is delicious. So I'm going to start with about 2 cups of that, and I'm going to add that into the pan. There's no water in the dish right now because you want to start with the oil and the rice, and you want to combine the two together so it becomes from turning into this translucent and it turns into a white, and as it cooks it will create it so it comes up sticky. Generally when people make rice, they tend to boil the water first and then add the rice in. But for me, I like to actually cook the rice a little bit before I add the liquid. So I cook this for about 30 seconds or so, and I'm going to add into it 4 cups of water. You can hear it sizzle a little bit. And then you want that to come up to a boil. And you're going to put a lid on that. And then turn down the heat to low, and you let that cook for about 20 minutes or so. And by the time the chicken and the vegetables get done cooking, the rice will be done as well. So now that we have the rice cooking, I'm going to turn on a large skillet. I like using a skillet that has a lot of room so that the chicken can cook quickly. I'm going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in here as well and coat the pan. And I have about 5 chicken breasts here, and I like to cut it across the bias, and so you get nice long strips. And I like to cut it in a way so you get some nice cubes. So by doing so, you cut each one about 1/4 inch thick, and you get great cubes for that, and it's going to cook a lot quicker. And it also just incorporates into the sauce a lot better, and you get some great texture by that. I like to use a French knife when I'm cutting my chicken because it's a lot more comfortable in the hand, and it also allows the chicken to cut a lot quicker. And I also like to make sure my knives are always very sharp. It just makes things a lot easier. So I'm going to take about 7 chicken breasts now, and I'm going to add them into the pan. And this is on about a medium-high heat. I'm going to move the chicken to the other side so I have a little more room to work on my vegetables and my sauce. Turn this guy on. And then we'll move this forward. And we're going to put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in here just to coat the pan. Now, extra virgin olive oil has a lot lower tendency to get up to a high heat, so you want to make sure you cook this on a fairly low heat, kind of on a medium would be good. And I'm going to start by adding some bell peppers in here. So, by doing bell peppers, you want to just cut it in half. And then cut out all the membrane inside there. Just kind of pull it out, and then you can just kind of bang out the rest of the seeds there with both sides. Bell peppers add a great texture and flavor to this dish, and they add just a nice crunch and also a beautiful color. And you don't want to cook them too long, just so they're kind of al dente, which is the Italian term for to the tooth. And you want to cut these across the bias so they have almost a shape kind of like a triangle. And we're going to add these to the pan along with the rest of them. So that totals about 4 peppers that I have here. And the amount of this dish is going to be able to feed about 6 to 8 people, but you can shorten this recipe or expand it so it feeds the amount of people that you're feeding. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of some sweet onion. Now, I like using sweet onion just because they're a lot more tender and they have a lot more flavor without being quite as potent. So I have 1 onion here that I cut in half, and I am going to just cut it about 4 times. So it's about 1/4 inch thick each time you do that. Then you just want to cut it about 1/6 inch thick across the bias like so. And we're going to add that to the pan with our peppers along with the onions. And that totals about like 1 onion that I use there. But you can add more or less if you like. And you can also add whatever vegetables you like. For me, I like sticking to the common peppers, onions, and mushrooms. So we're going to let those 2 cook for a few minutes, kind of on a medium heat. And you want to make sure you cook them just so they turn a little bit translucent in color and they soften a little bit around the edges. Now, we're going to check on our chicken over here. You want to make sure you cook this chicken so it gets a nice sear on the outside, and then you want to flip it over so it gets brown on the outside, kind of turns like a golden kind of a ginger color. And then we're going to turn down the heat and put a lid on it and let it finish cooking. Now that the peppers have cooked for about 5 minutes, we're just going to give them a quick stir. And I'm going to add into there some baby portobello mushrooms. And I cut these a certain way. I'm going to show you how real quick. I'm going to take each mushroom and you want to cut off the bottoms and you want to cut it into about 6 pieces. By doing so you can cut it in half and then you want to cut it at an angle so it becomes kind of like a tight piece of pizza. You want to cut each one kind of at an angle. We're going to add that into the pan real quick. Okay, and the mushrooms don't take quite as long to cook as the peppers and onions because they're a lot softer of a vegetable. So we're going to let these kind of bind together, and I'm also going to just transfer them to the back burner so we can finish cooking and start working on our sauce. This saucepan here, I like using a stainless steel saucepan to make my sauce in just because there's a lot of room in this and it's a lot easier for the sauce to be put together. A little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and also going to put in here about half of a stick of butter. You want that just to melt. And then you want to just let that melt together, and then we're going to add to it a little bit of flour. We're going to make a simple roux. And by making a roux, you simply want to take melted butter, and if you also want to add a little bit of olive oil like I did, you can do that as well. A couple years ago, I didn't even know what curry was, and I didn't know it even existed. I just knew it was something pretty, and a lot of people from India ate it. So I sort of was intrigued by the way that it looked, and I decided to kind of go for it and make my own version of it. But now that our butter is melting, I'm going to add in here about 1/3 of a cup of flour. And this is a simple tool that a lot of the French use, is making a roux. And by making a roux, it actually is a way for the dish to thicken, and it's going to make our sauce. So we're going to add the flour in here, and you want it to bubble up. Now that we've added the flour into there, we're going to let this just sit for a couple of minutes and kind of thicken up. And then we're going to add to it about 2 cups of organic whole milk. Now, I like to stick to using organic ingredients as much as possible, just because the flavor is a lot better. So I'm going to add in here about 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of milk, and we're going to continue.
What are you going to add in there?
Just say one more time.
I'm going to add in here about 2 cups of organic whole milk, and then we're going to continue whisking that together. And we're going to turn on the heat a little bit, so that way we don't burn the milk at the same time. So I'm going to add in here a little bit of some organic chicken broth as well. And we're going to add in here about 2 cups of chicken broth or so. But don't add it all at one time. You just want to make sure you add it a little bit so it can continue to thicken up. Okay, and right now it's kind of a pale white color, but as it cooks it will continue to kind of turn in color, and it will continue to kind of turn into a golden color. To do this, we're going to start adding some of our Indian spices. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Now, I like using real salt, specifically because the flavor is a lot better and there are a lot more nutrients and minerals in it that way. So we're going to add in here a couple pinches, about a teaspoon, and also a little bit of fresh ground black pepper. Now, I like grinding up a lot of my herbs and spices as much as possible, just because it allows you to kind of get the flavor right then and there instead of having it sit in the jar. So we're going to let this thicken up. And we're going to give our peppers and vegetables a quick stir back here. And also our chicken, which is almost done. And you see by cutting things in uniform shape and size that they cook a lot quicker and a lot more evenly. That finished cooking. And to our sauce, we're going to start adding a little bit of our Indian spice. So I'm going to add in here the curry powder. Now, curry powder is kind of a blend of cumin and coriander and garlic and salt and pepper. And it comes from India, and there's also a lot of turmeric in this, which gives it its kind of a yellow golden color. And we're going to add in here about 3 or 4 tablespoons of that, because that is going to be the biggest source of flavor for this. And we're also going to add a little bit of tandoori spice, which is kind of what they use to make red curry, because there are a lot of different colors of curry and different kinds. There's red curry and green curry, and then the original curry that I'm making today, which incorporates a lot of different kinds of the curry. So we're also going to add a little bit of chili powder. I like to add it to my curry just because it adds a lot of flavor. And a lot of people generally kind of shy away from it because it's spicy, but I like to use mild chili powder. So we're going to add about 2 teaspoons of that. And then for the heat, I'm going to add about 1/2 of a teaspoon of crushed red chili flakes. These are optional, you don't have to add them in. I like them. So about half of a teaspoon of those. And then the turmeric. Now turmeric comes straight from the ginger family, and they use it in India a lot of times, kind of for medicinal purposes. But for this today, we're just going to add in here a lot of color, and it's going to just complement the curry powder really well. So we're going to whisk all of these together, and it's just continuing to thicken up. So we're going to add a little more chicken broth, about 3/4 of a cup more. Just gonna let that hang out for a couple of minutes and let all those spices kind of blend together. Perfect. Now we're going to check on our chicken and our peppers back here, real quick. These guys are almost done. You kind of want to caramelize the onions and peppers, as well as the mushrooms. And they're going to kind of get that buttery taste, even though there are no herbs or spices in there. And the colors of the peppers are going to complement the curry really well. So, chicken is just about done. And once this is all done, it's going to be absolutely delicious, and you usually get any sort of audience to eat this. It's absolutely wonderful. Okay, now that our curry sat here for a couple of minutes, we are going to add to it our peppers and our vegetables. So, turn off the heat back there, and then cut! That was hot. Okay, we're going to add these in here, slowly, and then bind it all together. Perfect. Make sure you get every last bit of those onions, they're delicious. Okay. Now that that is done, we're going to just bind all that together, and we're going to let it come to a boil so that the sauce kind of thickens a little bit and the flavors from the vegetables bind into the sauce. Okay, let's give our chicken a quick stir. Now, just so our chicken can kind of get a little bit of flavor, we're actually going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to it. So, again, a little bit more of this real salt, because I love the flavor of it. It actually does have a different flavor compared to regular kosher salt or table salt. Because when I cook, I usually like to stick to things that are healthy. And it doesn't mean healthy eating is bad. It can definitely be delicious and indulging at the same time. I'm going to just combine that together. Let that finish cooking for a couple of minutes. And if you're a vegetarian, you can definitely make this with tofu, or you can substitute any of the meat and you can use white beans, which is a great source of protein for those of you who are a little bit shy of different kinds of meat. Chicken broth? Oh, but then also you can substitute the chicken broth, and you can use different kinds of vegetable stock. And if you don't want to use any of that, you can definitely use different kinds of soy milk as well to substitute the regular whole milk that we did use. Okay, now that this is coming up to a boil, we're going to turn it down a little bit and let it continue to thicken. Perfect. Set it back just a little bit. And to it, we are going to add our chicken here that is finished cooking. It's going to be beautiful. So we're going to add this in here. And I'm just going to kind of fold it all together. And you see how everything kind of turned out to be the same shape and texture. And it just makes the plating a lot more fun and a lot more presentable. And it's definitely a lot more appealing to the eye when things look pretty. Okay, we're going to let this sit for a couple more minutes, and I'm going to add the last thing to our sauce. Now, you want to make sure you add the coconut milk near the end because the flavor stays into it. So I'm going to use light coconut milk here. And I'm going to add about a half of a 15-ounce can. It adds a beautiful color and texture. We're going to take our spoon and just kind of mix that all together. I'll let that hang out for a couple minutes while we plate our rice out. Okay, so we're going to take our long grain rice here, and we're just going to put it all on the bottom of the plate here. Just kind of spread it out evenly, and then we're going to put the curry right over the top. Like so. Beautiful. Okay. Now, for the curry part of it, I'm just going to bring it right over here, and we are going to take this beautiful sauce. It's just beautiful golden color. It's just delicious. And the Indian spices are just absolutely wonderful. So we're going to take that, and we're going to take it and just pour it right over the top. And we're going to just layer it right over the top of the basmati rice. Make sure you add quite a bit of the sauce also. That way it kind of incorporates right into the rice and just blends right in together. It kind of turns the rice a beautiful color as well. Okay, and to finish off this dish, we're going to add a little bit of feta. Now, I like using feta that's made with goat's milk. This is usually a Greek type of cheese, but I like to put it on top of Indian food because it adds a really creamy texture. We're going to add about half of a cup. You can add about as much as you want. And add that straight on top. And real quick, and we're going to give this a taste. It looks absolutely delicious. And we're going to try this. A little bit of that rice and then the feta. It's delicious, and the flavors of the Indian spices just are great, and the heat from the chili flakes really comes through, but not in an overpowering way. So, I'm Emily Wall, and I hope to see you next time.